Hey everyone, it's Dennis. So today we're going to talk about triggers. Why am I going to talk about triggers now? Well, we're at the point of my story where I am in early sobriety, where I just stopped drinking, and I'm in the first few weeks, few months, but the very early parts of sobriety, which is the most fragile part of all. And you need to know that. You need to know this is when things can go bad fast because you don't have as much invested into your sobriety yet. Often you'll find that the more time you have, the more you want to hold on to it. But if you're just starting out and you just have a week or 2 weeks or whatever, it's a smaller loss. It's, you know, you can just start over again and do it again, which is bad. You know, you don't want it, you need to stop. You need to know this is the most fragile time, the beginning of your sobriety. And it is probably, you know, the first few weeks, probably the most common time that people relapse. And so, you know, come back and, you know, sometimes a couple months still is early and they come back, hopefully. And so what is it that causes you to relapse? What causes you to go back? Well, you can always know your mind is just looking for an excuse to drink, to use drugs. It's just waiting, trying to find a good excuse to use. And a lot of people we talk about have a trigger of resentment and anger. That wasn't me so much. I'm not a particularly angry guy. But a lot of people use anger and resentment as an excuse to drink. I'll get you back. I'm gonna drink. So that's, you know, that's a real big thing that people have to watch out for, is their anger and resentment, and that falls within HALT. Remember, HALT is hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And those are all really important things to watch out for. For me, tired is something that makes me weak, makes my mind not so strong, and so that's something I do have to watch out for. You know, as I've spoken before, I have sleeping issues, and sometimes it does affect my the stability of my sobriety. So is that hungry, angry, lonely, tired, HALT. That you need to keep those in mind. Those are your triggers. For me, though, the biggest trigger for me was boredom. Always has been. I always have gotten into the most trouble when I had nothing to do and I was just bored and tedium, and I just would get myself into trouble. And you know, the boredom really is an invitation to chaos. You know, I think there's also a lot of alcoholics, a lot of people in recovery, they have a certain, I don't want to say they're comfortable with chaos, but they kind of, you know, if things are going too good and things are just going too smooth or just too much peace, they bring in the chaos because they're familiar with chaos, especially if you grew up with chaos. You know, if you grew up and there's a chaotic home, it's the most normal place to be, is in chaos. So you tend to bring it in when it doesn't even need to be there, you know. And it's very counterintuitive, because why would anybody want chaos? But it is something that we subconsciously, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but this is something that is really common, and I see it sometimes in myself. When things are going really, really nice, I have to screw it all up by just doing something to create the chaos. And boredom invites chaos for me. Boredom is the worst for me. So, I mean, and there's a way to combat that. You know, the most obvious thing is to get busy, to do something. And my sponsor was really good about this early on. And one of the things he said, think about all the stuff you always wanted to do and you never did, mostly because you were drinking. And so I started doing these things. They, you know, some of them they didn't last very long, and some of them did, and some of them were great. You know, I learned how to sail. I always wanted to know how to sail a boat, and I took some sailing lessons, and I started sailing, and I love sailing. It's the most beautiful thing to go out on a boat and just sail with just the wind and the water, and it's just wonderful. So, and you know, I had a saltwater aquarium. That was something I always wanted to do, you know, with the beautiful fish and all that. That was great too. So these things, I just got busy. And the thing is, I had some extra money because I'm not spending it on booze. So I was able to do these things, and I started, you know, getting more interested in history, and I started reading a lot of things, and you know, there was a lot of constructive things that I was able to do to keep my mind busy, my hands busy, and that was sort of the answer to my boredom. I got real busy. And then there's always, you can go back into meetings, and you can help people, and you can help setting up, and you can just get more social and just, you know, get more active within AA and recovery. So this is a very important subject, is triggers. You know, you may hear them and you don't really think much about them until you realize what's at stake, which is your sobriety, and how it's super important to identify your triggers early on. And think about what I said on the boredom and tedium, and how that can be a really big problem. Because you're going to have a lot of extra time when you're not drinking, because you're spending so much time being drunk and planning and drinking. Now you don't have that time being used up, and then you have the money on your hand because you're not spending it on there. So you can use that as an opportunity. All right, you don't have to do bad things. You can do some good things and make your life better with it. Anyway, there it is. Triggers, 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 and hope you have a great day.